A Republican from Indiana. Congressman, good morning to you. It's always great to see you. Listen, the situation in Iran is this. They still have nuclear material. They're still firing missiles that are killing U.S. troops. The Strait of Hormuz is now effectively closed, mostly closed, not fully open. It was open before the war. And Bab el-Mandeb, another strait, is threatened to be closed. So how do you tell your constituents in Indiana that this $37 billion has been well spent and that $67 billion more will be worth it?
John, great to be with you this morning. Thanks for having me. You know, I was actually just talking to constituents this past weekend. In fact, there was a mother of military personnel who had strong feelings about the fact that we need to finish this. Now, you know, what does that mean? We know that Iran was not going to be as simple or as easy as what happened with Venezuela and Maduro. Obviously, two very different regimes, both dictators, but we know that Iran has a lot of weapons, a lot of money with their oil and gas revenue. The IRGC it's broad, it's wide, and it's deep. But the fact is that we have taken out a bulk of their nuclear capability. There's still some work to do. Also, the Strait of Hormuz continues to be contentious. But you know, I know that a lot of people in my district say we've got to finish the job. Now, younger folks, they don't like the idea of war, and I think that's very typical. None of us do. But in the long run, we have to take out the IRGC. I think that's where the coalition has to be built to do that. And I think President Trump and Marco Rubio are working hard at that, and it will come together at some point, and we have to win this.
Was there a reason you left out Secretary Hegseth in that?
Oh, no, I mean, there's obviously a lot of great personnel in the cabinet. We actually met with Secretary Hegseth last week, and a lot of the money that you mentioned is not only going towards, you know, backfilling the artillery for the war, but also it's forward-looking money as well. It's not just for the Iranian situation. We also need to catch up on drones. We're behind on shipbuilding. So there's money that's going to be going forward for new equipment, not just for the Iranian conflict.
There was a quote in Politico this morning attributed to a person close to the White House. And this person close to the White House described the administration's handling of the war as badly mismanaged and driven increasingly by the president's refusal to acknowledge a loss. They don't have a plan here, the person said. And then their quote goes on to talk about fears about an escalation and endless war. But they don't have a plan here. What do you think their plan is this morning?
You know, and I've heard that several times now on the Hill, and why would the president, why would Secretary Hegseth, why would they reveal a plan publicly anyway? I mean, we're not going to reveal the play calling when, you know, we have to protect our troops. If there was a plan that was released, you know, there would be an outcry that we're putting our troops in harm's way because there would be an appropriate response from the Iranians. So I think that there is a plan here. The plan is to defeat the IRGC, to take out their nuclear capability. But at the same time, we've known the IRGC is, as I said earlier, it's a much more sophisticated regime. They've had 40 years in power in Iran. They've had billions and billions of dollars of oil and gas money, putting the economic pressure on, putting the military pressure on, all without putting troops on the ground. That's what I think people need to be reminded of, is that there aren't troops on the ground that we all fear the most. The Iranians know that as well, and they're using that against us and trying to prolong this situation as long as possible, even through the elections. But we have to do the right thing to protect our troops, to protect our country, finish the job. I've been calling for a regime change in Iran all along, because as long as the IRGC is in power, we're going to always have this problem.
Congressman, we woke up to the news in the Wall Street Journal and New York Times today that the White House appears to be close, if not already agreeing to a deal with Saudi Arabia to help them develop a nuclear program and ultimately for them to enrich their own uranium. Now, you came out opposed to selling F-35s to Turkey, and the grounds you stated at the time were because of security concerns in the region and also because of some of Turkey's foreign policy positions toward Israel. Given that, how do you feel about giving Saudi Arabia a nuclear program?
You know, the Saudis are really the stable balance in the Middle East between, of course, Saudi Arabia, Iran, and Turkey. The problem that I have with Turkey is you just continue to see this this rhetoric, this anti-Semitic, this anti-Israel rhetoric towards Israel almost on a daily basis. And Turkey is a powerful country. And of course, with the relationship between Israel, or in proximity between Israel, Syria, and Turkey, Syria is a little bit of a free agent in this situation with Assad being gone. We keep hearing good reports that al-Shara is stabilizing the country, trying to unify the country. There's a lot of work to do. But I just think if Turkey has the F-35, which is our most sophisticated aircraft, it gives them the ability, not just also to their south, but also it would affect Greece as well. They've got conflicts with Greece. So I think Saudi Arabia really would be the balance, could be a balancing mechanism here to keep everything a little bit in line there.
So no concerns with helping or giving Saudi Arabia the power to enrich their own uranium?
Not my initial reaction. I, of course, want to hear more intelligence. I've visited Saudi Arabia. They've come a long way from where they were before. Obviously, the Crown Prince is a friend of the West, and he's a friend of America. And we also know that they are always keeping a check on Iran. Iran and the Arabs and the Persians, the IRGC and the Saudis, have always been at each other. And I think we want to be careful where nuclear weapons go. But it's at the same time, Turkey becomes more powerful. The Saudis are truly becoming a friend to the West. Also with the Abraham Accords, if they can pull the Saudis in with the Abraham Accords in relation to Israel and really build an economic relationship between several of those countries there, that could really be the balance that brings accountability to everybody there.
Well, they're clearly not there yet. They're not in the Abraham Accords yet. And in terms of being a friend of the United States,
right.
There are those who will suggest they're not particularly a friend of human rights or journalists in the past. But Congressman Marlon Stutzman, I do appreciate the conversation. Yeah. I do appreciate talking to you today. Thank you very much.